So when you buy an indexed annuity, you're getting a really powerful financial tool. But have you ever really thought about what's under the hood? What's the actual engine that drives its potential for growth? Well, that's what we're diving into today. That engine is the market index it's tied to, and believe me, choosing the right one is absolutely crucial for the road ahead.
Here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at what actually drives your annuity. Then, the two main paths for growth you'll have to choose from. I'll give you a clear recommendation. We'll talk about why simplicity almost always wins in this space. And finally, a really important detail about dividends that you just can't afford to miss.
All right, let's start with the big idea. At its core, an indexed annuity's performance is linked to an outside market index. Just think of it like this. You're hitching your retirement wagon to a powerful engine. The performance of that engine is what's going to determine how far and how fast you can go.
And that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? You sign the papers, you put your hard-earned money in, but how does the insurance company figure out the interest you might earn? It's not magic, I promise. It all comes down to tracking an index. But which one?
Okay, so by far the most common index you're going to see is the S&P 500. It's pretty much a household name in the stock market world. And that's because it tracks 500 of the biggest, most well-known companies in the US. It's a really straightforward, reliable way to gauge the market's overall health. So for our purposes, let's call this our baseline. Now here's where it gets interesting. While the S&P 500 is often the default, you're usually given a whole menu of options. And these choices really boil down to two main categories: the traditional indexes we all know, and these newer, way more complex proprietary ones.
Let's just put these side by side for a second. On one hand, you've got your traditional indexes, like the S&P 500. They're public, they're transparent, they're easy to understand. It's like a standard car engine that any mechanic can look at and immediately know what's going on. But then you have these proprietary indexes. These are custom built by the insurance companies themselves. They're often marketed with these really appealing names like volatility controlled, but they're kind of like a complex black box engine. The formulas are secret, they're private, and this is why it matters to you. Because you can't see how they work, it's pretty much impossible to know if they're truly designed for your benefit or for someone else's.
So there's your choice: the familiar, open book engine or the mysterious black box. And while that shiny new proprietary option can sound really good with all its marketing hype, the expert advice on this is surprisingly direct. No messing around.
And here it is. The recommendation is to stick with what you know. Choose a traditional, transparent index like the S&P 500. Now, I know it might not sound as exciting as some custom-engineered index, but trust me, there are some incredibly powerful reasons behind this very simple strategy.
So why does simplicity win here? It's not about being old-fashioned, not at all. It's really about putting you, the owner of the annuity, in a position of power, a position of clarity and control. Let's break down the three key reasons this recommendation makes so much sense.
First up, transparency. You can pull up the S&P 500's performance on your phone in like 5 seconds. There's no mystery. No one can hide the results. Second, that transparency allows for independent verification. This is huge. You don't have to just take the insurance company's word for it. You can check the public data yourself. This empowers you and, it keeps everyone honest. And third, it sets realistic expectations. With a simple index, your financial plan is based on clear, understandable data, not some confusing black box formula that can leave you totally in the dark. Okay, before we wrap this up, there is one more detail that is absolutely 100% critical to understand. And honestly, it's something that trips up a lot of people when they're thinking about how these annuities actually grow their money. So here's the bottom line. Even when your annuity is tracking a great index like the S&P 500, you do not, I repeat, do not collect the dividends that those 500 companies pay out to their shareholders. This is a fundamental feature of pretty much every indexed annuity out there. Your growth potential is based only on the price movement of the stocks. That's it. Any dividends that get paid out are just not part of the calculation for your annuity. This is a key difference between directly owning stocks and using an indexed annuity. And it's something you absolutely have to be aware of going in. All of this really comes back to one central idea. When you're making decisions that are going to shape your entire financial future, that temptation to go with something complex and new can be really strong. But as we've seen today, sometimes the most powerful tool you have is good old-fashioned simplicity. So I'll just leave you with this question. For your financial future, what is the true value of clarity? Choosing the right index is just one piece of the puzzle. And look, I know these decisions can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes. If you want some expert guidance that's tailored to your specific situation,
please don't hesitate to reach out. You can visit us at annuityexpertadvice.com or just give us a call. We're here to help you navigate these big decisions with total confidence.